The Panama Canal is an artificial 82 kilometers waterway in Panama that connects the Atlantic Ocean with the Pacific Ocean. Here in this video we will consider the events that led to the construction of the Panama Canal and separation of Panama from Colombia due to American politics in the region. One of the largest and most difficult engineering projects ever undertaken, the Panama Canal shortcut greatly reduces the time for ships to travel between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, enabling them to avoid the lengthy, hazardous Cape Horn route around the southernmost tip of South America. The first attempt to construct a canal through what was then Colombia's province of Panama began on January 1, 1881. The project was inspired by the diplomat Ferdinand de Lesseps, who was able to raise considerable funds in France as a result of the huge profits generated by his successful construction of the Suez Canal. Although the Panama Canal needed to be only 40% as long as the Suez Canal, it was much more of an engineering challenge due to the combination of tropical rainforests, debilitating climate, the need for canal locks, and the lack of any ancient route to follow. De Lesseps wanted a sea-level canal, like the Suez, but he visited the site only a few times, during the dry season which lasts only 4 months of the year. His men were totally unprepared for the rainy season, during which the Chagres River, where the canal started, became a raging torrent, rising up to 10 m, 35 feet. The dense jungle was alive with venomous snakes, insects, and spiders, but the worst challenges were yellow fever, malaria, and other tropical diseases, which killed thousands of workers. By 1884, the death rate was over 200 per month. Public health measures were ineffective because the role of the mosquito as a disease vector was then unknown. Conditions were downplayed in France to avoid recruitment problems, but the high mortality rate made it difficult to maintain an experienced workforce. In France, de Lesseps kept the investment and supply of workers flowing long after it was obvious that the targets were not being met, but eventually the money ran out. The French effort went bankrupt in 1889 after reportedly spending $287 million. An estimated 22,000 men died from disease and accidents, and the savings of 800,000 investors were lost. Work was suspended on May 15, and in the ensuing scandal, known as the Panama Affair, some of those deemed responsible were prosecuted, including Gustave Eiffel. De Lesseps and his son Charles were found guilty of misappropriation of funds and sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. The French manager of the new Panama Canal Company eventually managed to persuade de Lesseps that a lock and lake canal was more realistic than a sea-level canal. On January 22, 1903, the Hay-Herran Treaty was signed by United States Secretary of State John M. Hay and Colombian charge Dr. Tomás Herran. For $10 million and an annual payment, it would have granted the United States a renewable lease in perpetuity from Colombia on the land proposed for the canal. The treaty was ratified by the U.S. Senate on March 14, 1903, but the Senate of Colombia did not ratify it. Buenaventura told President Theodore Roosevelt and Hay of a possible revolt by Panamanian rebels who aimed to separate from Colombia, and hoped that the United States would support the rebels with U.S. troops and money. Roosevelt changed tactics, and actively supported the separation of Panama from Colombia. Shortly after recognizing Panama, he signed a treaty with the new Panamanian government under terms similar to the Hay-Herran Treaty. On November 2, 1903, U.S. warships blocked sea lanes against possible Colombian troop movements en route to put down the Panama Rebellion. Panama declared independence on November 3, 1903. The United States quickly recognized the new nation. This happened so quickly that by the time the Colombian government in Bogotá launched a response to the Panamanian uprising, U.S. troops had already entered the rebelling province. It should also be stated that the Colombian troops dispatched to Panama were hastily assembled conscripts with little training. While these conscripts may have been able to defeat the Panamanian rebels, they would not have been able to defeat the U.S. Army troops that were supporting the Panamanian rebels. The reason why an army of conscripts was sent was because that was the best response the Colombians could gather, due to the fact that Colombia was still recovering from a civil war within Colombia that was between liberals and conservatives from October 1899 to November 1902, known as the Thousand Days War. With the U.S. being fully aware of these conditions and even incorporating them into the planning of the Panama intervention, as the U.S. acted as an arbitrator between the two sides, with the peace treaty that ended the Thousand Days War being signed on the USS Wisconsin on November 21, 1902. While in port, the U.S. also brought engineering teams to Panama, with the peace delegation, to begin planning for the canal's construction before the U.S. had even gained the rights to build the canal. All these factors would result in the Colombians being unable to put down the Panamanian rebellion and expel the United States troops occupying what today is the independent nation of Panama. In 1904, the United States purchased the French equipment and excavations, including the Panama Railroad, for $40 million, of which $30 million related to excavations completed, primarily in the Culebra Cut, valued at about $1 per cubic yard. The United States also paid the new country of Panama $10 million and a $250,000 payment each following year. In 1921, Colombia and the United States entered into the Thomson-Urrutia Treaty, in which the United States agreed to pay Colombia $25 million, $5 million upon ratification, and $4 to $5 million annual payments, and grant Colombia special privileges in the canal zone. In return, Colombia recognized Panama as an independent nation. The construction of the canal was completed in 1914, 401 years after Panama was first crossed by Vasco da Balboa. The United States spent almost $500 million, roughly equivalent to $12.8 billion in 2019 to finish the project. This was by far the largest American engineering project to date. The canal was formally opened on August 15, 1914, with the passage of the cargo ship SS Ancon. Today, it has a length of 82 kilometers and supports a maximum boat length of 366 meters. It has 3 locks up and 3 locks down for ship transit. The U.S. continued to control the canal and surrounding Panama Canal zone until 1977. After a period of joint American-Panamanian control, the canal was taken over by the Panamanian government in 1999. It is now managed and operated by the government-owned Panama Canal Authority. Almost $2.6 billion was the toll revenue generated by the Panama Canal during the fiscal year 2019. I am pretty sure that you have understood the politics over Panama Canal in the last century by the United States. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking it and subscribe to this channel.